This is WGRG 100.5 FM, where we meet the absolute minimum FCC broadcasting standards. It's time to hang on and brace yourself for a community radio program that's frankly indescribable. Let's talk Geneseo. Two guys with nothing better to do on a Friday morning but to talk about our community. Geneseo City Administrator Brandon Meglin and City Alderman Keith Kennett. And yeah, nobody, and I mean nobody, puts the blah in blah, blah, blah like these guys do.
And good morning. The Blah is back. I'm Keith Kennett along with co-host Brandon Meglin for this Friday, August 29th edition of Let's Talk Geneseo. Appreciate everyone tuning in and watching us on the live stream. You can actually see us a little bit better now as we work through some of the new stuff that we've installed over the summer and kind of learn to work it properly a little bit as we move along. Probably should start off by apologizing to Gene, but we had a good program last week. Gene was at the top of his game and had a little recording snafu, so we weren't able to capture that for in our archives, but we plan to do better again this week. But anyway, Brandon, always a pleasure. Good to see you this morning.
Yeah. Good morning. Yeah, it was a good show, too. I could tell when I told Gene that it wasn't going to be podcasted that he was a little bit disappointed. But we're learning and moving on with the new technology, right?
There you go. And that's why we always have the low expectations to where really nobody's disappointed because they're really not expecting too much from us on the technical side. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry.
Oh. Does that mean that Gene is going to miss out on his royalty payments from that episode? Is that correct?
Definitely.
That is
maybe a little disappointed.
That is sadly correct. But there's a familiar voice.
Yeah.
And the familiar voice, of course, does have.
Nice.
He's back.
Back in the saddle.
3.
That's right, season 3. We probably wouldn't be here without Mark because he schedules most of our guests.
He didn't dump out on us after 1 and 2.
That's right.
Yeah, start of the 3rd season. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to light this candle.
Oh, I like it.
Well,
nice.
This is Mark Gravicheski from Quad Cities Investment Group. Yeah, we call you a co-host now. I think you've earned that official title, and Mark will be joining us for another, I think, 3 programs through the end of 2026 through December. Yeah, and we'll continue January.
I think a little bit, I think we've got 3 to 4 lined up. We'll have to see how the schedule is. Obviously, our schedule is based on the school, and they've got, Thanksgiving in November and Christmas holidays. So obviously our schedule is dependent on the high school schedule. So, we're definitely going to try to make as many as we can.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep, and Mark is one of our, I would call, co-host and show producer because he brings in folks from the surrounding area a lot, things that may be of interest to folks here in Geneseo from Mark's extensive connections in the Quad Cities area and the Quad Cities media market. I feel like you don't turn on the TV or open the Dispatch or Quad Cities Times and see Mark doing something. You were just talking about you were writing a piece last night.
Yeah. Kind of a little bit of a heads up. We do have Tom Martin, the executive director or editor of Quad City Times Daily Dispatch, with us. And I've been. My article is in the Dispatch and the Quad City Times. I think a little over 8. My 8-year anniversary was in June. And then my segment on WQAD that's going on its 8th year anniversary in January. And now you kind of throw in the radio show and other little projects here and there. So definitely kind of keep busy on the media side. Yeah. But it's fun.
Yeah, and as Mark mentioned, Tom Martin, executive editor with the Quad City Times and Dispatch Argus, is with us here as well. Tom, we are getting used to this. And now that we have all these cameras, I have to kind of remind myself that we need to introduce everybody in the room right from the start. Before we could if we had a few people in here, start with one person and, somebody would be in the background. There was just one little camera and you wouldn't really see this full picture of what we have.
People are wondering who's this guy over here now.
Who's the guy in the suit in the middle? Yeah.
Yeah, we never have anyone in a suit, so that's
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought that, I thought we were taking a picture, so I brought the jacket. Now look, we're streaming, so.
No, we appreciate you classing up our little program.
Absolutely.
So.
Thank you.
Well, Mark, it's been a while since we've talked to you about some of the market conditions out there. And
Yeah.
as we know,
Yeah.
things, even from just show to show, when you're here every other month or so, things often change. And over the past 6 months, we've seen a lot of changes, and we're seeing one record after another, it seems like, in the stock market. What's driving the upward trends recently?
Yeah, I mean, a lot has changed. I think I looked back at my calendar. The last time I was here was, I think, 3 months ago to the date, in the, I think, May.
Yeah.
Was my last time here. But yeah, I mean, if we kind of think back a little bit in history to the first part of the year, late April through, kind of late February through like mid-April. During that window, we did see this, significant pullback in the stock market as these trade disputes and tariffs began to escalate. The S&P 500 during that window of time fell 19%. The NASDAQ, I believe, fell even more, around 24%. And in my opinion, it was Wall Street kind of assuming a worst-case scenario for the U.S. economy, that inflation would skyrocket, that consumer and business spending, the labor market, corporate earnings would all collapse. But since then, we continue to get more and more of this economic data that shows that, inflation hasn't skyrocketed. It's actually lower or around the same level as it was when these tariffs and trade disputes first started. Consumer and business spending are still fairly strong. The labor market does continue to gradually weaken, but by no means is it severe. And then corporate earnings. We're wrapping up the second quarter corporate earnings season, and corporate earnings remain especially strong. So, for me, this ongoing rally that we're seeing in the stock market, where almost every other day it's a new all-time high, is Wall Street, realizing that, the U.S. economy is performing much, much better than they originally thought it would.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and, for a long time, we've heard in the media, it seems like the focus is on the tariff talks and the impact of tariffs. So why aren't we seeing more of an impact from the tariffs on what's going on and this upward trend?
We need to remember what tariffs are. Tariffs are essentially a tax on specific goods imported from specific countries. The ultimate goal of tariffs is to redirect consumer and business spending. For all of us here and all the consumers listening, if a certain good is now 25% more expensive because of tariffs, well, we can either buy a similar good made here in the United States, or we can buy that similar good imported from a country that has a lower tariff or maybe isn't tariffed at all. We can shift our spending away from the purchase of goods and into the purchase of services. And companies are doing something very similar. They're adjusting their supply chains to cheaper markets around the world. For example, a lot of companies here in the United States are adjusting their supply chains out of China and into many of the neighboring countries. Think of India, South Korea, Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia. However, without question, there are certainly individual companies and sectors within the economy that are disproportionately impacted, by these tariffs.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, Mark, for the update. from our financial world here in Geneseo. And
Everybody got their little financial buzz this morning.
everybody's taking all their notes. Well, we want to switch it over to Tom Martin, executive editor, Quad City Times and Dispatch Argus, and I know we got a lot of questions and things we want to dive into with Tom here. So, first of all, thank you for being here again.
Yeah, I'm glad to. This is kind of a nice little setup here.
Yeah.
Glad to be here today.
Yeah. Well, like all of our first-time guests, Tom, we just kind of ask that maybe you introduce yourself a little bit, give us some of your background and what brought you into this business and to the Quad Cities newspaper market.
Yeah, it's I've been in the business for quite a while, so it's a longer story, but I'll give you the quick summary. So I'm a farm kid, grew up in Hancock County between Hamilton and Carthage. The name of the town was Elviston. 250 people. So those are my roots. I went to the University of Iowa. Decided that I would be a rock and roll star, and so I actually played in bands for about 5 years, and then wanted something a little more stable, and decided, hey, I got this degree in journalism from Iowa. Let's give it a shot. So I've been at about 5 papers and have been the editor of all of those. Most recently, I was in Galesburg and for like 17 years. And then transitioned. It came up to the Quad City Times, Dispatch, Argus. Worked for Lee Enterprises and been there almost 3 years.
How did you originally get your start in journalism? What was kind of like, when you were in college, it's like, what made you want to go down that career path? Yeah,
so in college I was not inspired to be a journalist, but I took the classes and did the stuff, and because rock and roll, of course, was the thing I was going to do. But I think my first stringer job was for the Quincy Herald-Whig, and I wrote a couple stories, and then I got on at the weekly newspaper in Carthage, the Hancock County Journal-Pilot. And the editor there left, took a job, and everybody was like, well, I think I could do that. So I kind of was hired the editor in 1991. There was a huge flood in 1993, and I think that was the moment where this is really what I want to do. I want to tell these communities stories, and they deserve to have as good a journalism as anybody, right? Living in a small town doesn't mean you should have lesser journalism, that your community stories are less important. So I was kind of inspired by that 1993 flood especially, and kind of my career went to Macomb and then Princeton, Illinois, then Galesburg, and then to the Quad Cities. So
your career came down to a decision between rock and roll drummer or journalism?
Yeah, and for a while I did both. And so I would be at a gig and there was a tornado in Nauvoo, Illinois, so I better finish the gig here and get going. So.
And what was the name of the band you were a drummer with? Because it's just like, if it's going back to the 80s, it's like, man, is this one of the original drummers of Guns N' Roses? You never know.
No, nothing like that. I had lots of different names. Probably the last band I was with, and I was with a guitar player named Slink Rand, who older people might recognize from the 60s and 70s, and it was the Dogs with Slink Rand. So, yeah.
The band names may not all be appropriate for the radio, Mark. Tom, before the show, too, we were talking a little bit about the media landscape here in Geneseo. And really, this program came up, one of the reasons, because, we've had a shift away from having a local paper that covers Geneseo, covers the students, the kids of Geneseo, the athletics, and the city, and other things going on. It was one of the things Keith and I talked about, how do we talk about some of the issues going on with the city in an informal way and still get our story out there on what's going on. There is a local paper, and the Dispatch and Times still cover the city of Geneseo and things that are going on here. But from that local paper standpoint, we really don't have it. And that's one of the trends, I think, for smaller communities. But can you talk about some of the trends that you're seeing in the industry right now?
Yeah, well, I guess the big, in our heyday, and which wasn't all that long ago, newspapers, we had almost a monopoly on the advertising outside of radio and maybe a TV market if you had a TV market. People advertised in the newspaper because we were almost in everybody's house. So those were the good times. The internet came along, and it was a great way for us to get our news stories out to a different audience or more of our audience, and to do it quicker and sort of be breaking news and provide breaking news and that sort of thing. The advertising didn't transfer over. So about 2015 is when it really hit, I would say. It worked for a while. We had enough print subscribers and enough print advertisers, but Google and Facebook, I would say, ate our lunch. They were ready for the tech boom, and we were not. And so suddenly an advertiser has 10,000 options to advertise instead of the one that goes to, used to be, we went to homes of people who were likely to be community oriented, to have enough money to spend at your business. So it was a good purchase for an advertiser. I think now the advertising can really dial in on someone aged 25 to 30 who's interested in sports gear, and it's just a different world. And newspapers just don't have that revenue stream from advertising. I think it used to be about 70% of revenue for a newspaper came through that display advertising, is what we call that. And so that's really been the tough thing. And so then newspapers had to downsize, and I think that's probably what has happened here in Geneseo.
Mm-hmm. For the Quad City Times, how have you guys kind of been adapting to the viewers, whether it's going from a physical paper to subscription to incorporating maybe podcasts or social media? Talk to us a little bit more about kind of any transformational shift that you're seeing within the media industry.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me that's a challenge, and I enjoy that challenge, which is the electronic media, the digital landscape is different, and so people are on their phones all the time. We want to be in their phones, but the competition for someone's attention is incredibly difficult now. So we're not competing with the TV stations only, or the radio, or other newspapers. We're competing for everything that is pulling at someone's attention on their phone, on their laptop. Things are popping up all the time, social media. We want to be in all those places, but when we're there, we have to have compelling stories. We have to have better stories than we used to. We used to have, we covered the city council. Here are the 5 things they talked about. Now we take one of those things that we think people want to know about, they have questions about, and then we'll dig into that story and try to explain it in a way that helps them make better decisions or helps them in their lives. So I think it's forced us to do better stories. I think more important stories.
Are you seeing a shift from maybe away from management pushing local stories to maybe more national stories to maybe gain a broader audience, or obviously maybe within the Quad Cities that emphasis is on the local communities?
Yeah, so I work for Quad City Times, and Dispatch Argus are part of Lee Enterprises. They have a national team, a national desk is what we call it, that curates those stories. They put them on our website. They create pages that we can add to our newspaper. So we're all local. My newsroom is just focused on the local. I mean, if there's a national story that we can localize that we think people want to understand a little bit better, then we'll kind of dig into that. But in terms of national, that's not where our head is at. So, we do get complaints that we didn't have this political story on the front page, and the cable TV station that the person saw it on, that they think that's the story we should have had. We get a lot of that. I get a lot of that. I didn't used to, and I've been in the business for 30 years, so it has changed. The political landscape has changed.
Now, obviously, you, like so many other media organizations, have your own page on Facebook where you can push stories. To what extent is that a challenge? Because you not only you have your own stories that you're posting on your Facebook social media account, but you're competing with WQAD, KWQC, the local TV stations, the national TV stations. Is there some type of strategy that you use when it's like, how do we manage our social presence from getting that news feed out to the population?
Yeah, there's so many strategies involved. I will say, I'll give you this little bit of background, is that probably in about 2015, more than half of our readership got its news from read our news stories in Galesburg through Facebook. They found us through Facebook, and that has changed. Facebook is not the behemoth that it once was in terms of media. So it was like Facebook is between my readers and my content. I don't like that. It's the only way I can reach them. And Facebook changes their algorithms left and right with no regard for my newspaper and what we're trying to do. So that has lessened. Now it's a little bit more Google search. So the majority of our stories people find through searching. So it's a breakdown of some people go directly to the site. Some people get the email alert or an email newsletter. Then there's search, and then there's social media. So it's more of a even breakdown. I think Google's the monster in the room now. It used to be Facebook. So we want to build stories. It changes the way we have analytics, so I can know exactly how people found this story. I can know how many days it was relevant to people, and so that leads us as news organizations to let's create stories that have more than a one-day shelf life. Or used to be a daily newspaper. Here's the story for today, and there'll be another story tomorrow. What about a story that people can Google search, and it keeps giving them answers, and it lasts for a week? Maybe it lasts for a year. Like who decides what color the bridge lights are on I-74? That's a story that we did, and it's just going to be out there forever, right? So we kind of create a baseline of that kind of content. And then we also then try to dig into those meteor stories that shine a spotlight on what we think or what people tell us is important to them.
Yeah. One of the things that I certainly, while scrolling through Facebook last night, you kind of came across a news item. You and I and Brandon kind of chatted about a little bit in the front lobby there, is that just kind of get some type of initial thought and response from you, is that the Quad City Times is now moving the printing of its physical paper out of state, and just by sheer luck, we have you on our radio show this morning.
Yeah, I'm a hot guest this morning.
Exactly.
We're not used to breaking stories.
This is breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. That's why you listen to this show.
Our ratings just went up.
Yeah, so we just announced that about 5:30 yesterday, and it's something I learned about just recently. But we printed both of those newspapers and the Muscatine Journal and some of the other papers in Davenport, in the Davenport facility, which is where the newsroom is, for decades. And so that is changing. They're shutting the press down in about a month, and then they're moving it to their Munster, Indiana facility, and that's a Lee facility, and we have a Northwest Indiana newspaper there, and they'll truck the newspapers back, and we don't expect that there'll be any delivery. It should be delivered if you're getting good delivery now, you should get the good delivery then. That's a caveat, because I get delivery calls quite frequently. But in terms of the news coverage, that won't be impacted. That's the printing of the newspaper is not something that has anything to do really with what we do in the newsroom. So I just want to assure people that we're not leaving town. We're still in the Quad Cities, and all my reporters are still on their same beats. And you can expect to see the same news online and in print. So it's tough whenever there's transition and there's change, and people who did a certain job at your facility no longer do that job. That nobody likes that. So that's tough. But it's press consolidation has been going on for 15, 20 years, and there are very few big newspaper presses in the Midwest, in the state of Illinois, downstate especially.
And you touched on it a little bit earlier, and maybe just to do a quick follow-up. But you had mentioned, though, too, that amongst all the changes with the internet and evolving operations and newsrooms and all that, but how much has it been? It just seems that there's an increasing more of a hyper-polarization with political views. On parties, and if you say one thing, another side is complaining that you're biased, and if you say another thing, then the other side's saying that you're biased and what have you. Is that something that's more perception than reality, or is that generally a challenge that you need to deal with?
Yeah, I don't know that there's much, because like 95% of our energy is local news, so this is mostly about national politics. And the people who call in to complain to me already know what the story is they're complaining about. They've already read the story somewhere else, and they want us to play it differently. So it's kind of a different thing. But I don't know that there's too much to do with it. I listen to people and try to explain. That's an AP story, and that's where we get our national content from. Associated Press. They're on the spectrum, pretty much in the middle, at least according to people who study such things. But you can get lost in the left-right thing, and I feel like the big issue is where's our local content, where's our local stories, newspapers have been struggling for 10, 15 years now. And news deserts is what they call areas that don't have local news, local journalism, and I think that's the bigger issue that people are talking about. Well, there will always be national politics, and there will always be left and right, and those are fights that I don't think are quite as important as what's going on with our local news. And so I would say. I think you brought up earlier ghost papers. There are a lot of those in rural areas especially. And, when I started the show talking about if you live in a town of 10,000 or 3,000 or whatever, you don't deserve less of a newspaper or less of a media. I mean, maybe your advertising there can't afford it, but we want to try to provide the best journalism we can, but it's difficult. The business model isn't there to support it in the way that it used to be. So I think that's the big challenge. I think in the Quad Cities we're doing a pretty good job. Lee Enterprises is pretty focused on local content, and that's where almost all of our energy is. So,
To kind of spin off from that, as far as like changes you're seeing, obviously, one of the bigger things we've seen within the print media, whether it's newspapers or magazines, especially, is that continued evolution away from the physical newspaper, away from the physical magazine, and more to online. What, if any, challenges have you, as you at the paper or Lee Enterprises, as kind of that bigger holding company, kind of met with that transition? Or is it just a simple transition where, yeah, we're going to move everything more to an online platform?
I would say one of the hard transitions is, I've worked at daily newspaper for so long that, what's in tomorrow's paper? What do we have for tomorrow's paper? That's a different discussion now. It's like, what stories are you working on, and when can we publish those stories? And so there is a kind of a culture shift, and I think that's one of the things I've prided myself in, is trying to get newsrooms to think about digital and think about those stories. And so, we have more digital readers than we have print readers, and I think that's probably safe to say for most newspapers. But when are people reading that content? So that's a kind of strategy. So between 7:30 is like the peak time. So people read in the morning. So if I don't have my 3 best stories available for them at 7:30 in the morning, then I'm missing out. It's like trying to sell ice scrapers in July. So you kind of pay attention to that, and it's like I brought up earlier, the analytics are, I think that's really exciting that we don't have to guess. Well, the editors used to say, this is important, we'll cover this, and people will read it, I know they will. And then we're like, no, they're not reading that. They're not reading that story. But let's see what they're talking about. What are they talking about on social media? So I feel like we're more plugged in to what they want, when they want it, and so.
Yeah, one thing I want to gain your thoughts on this, because you notice a lot of articles. You read an article online, and at the bottom it says, this story generated by artificial intelligence, but it was reviewed by the editor. To what extent is Lee Enterprise using artificial intelligence? And obviously, and I know a number of people within the Quad City Times Daily Dispatch who write. To what extent is Lee Enterprise embracing using artificial intelligence, and if not, what are your thoughts about those entities that essentially that they press a button and within milliseconds a story is created and it pops up as a news story for viewership? Yeah, boy, artificial intelligence is it's powerful.
I have been for the last 2 weeks. I've been we have daily staff meetings about what's going on today. But we have weekly staff meetings where we talk about what are the stories we really need to get to. What's going on out there, and one of the stories is AI. I feel like we're already waist deep in AI, and we don't really know as a newsroom how to cover that. So we have been having those discussions. How does it impact education? How does it impact business, communications? And so
and it's only going to get more ingrained within our culture.
Yeah, no, there's no
economy.
stepping. There's no stepping back. There was no thoughtful. Let's let it in. Let's use it here. It's just here, and everybody's using it. I mean, we are not using AIs to generate stories, and we will as long as I'm there. I hope we never would do that. But there are some ways that you can use AI, and I know some of the people above my pay grade at Lee are looking at that and what makes sense. Like, so for instance, when you write a headline for online, there may be an AI program that can tweak that headline because they know that it'll perform better if it has these words in it or whatever. So right now, we'll take a story and we'll write what we'll call keywords that we think if somebody's searching this story, they're going to have these words in it. So we do that now. That may become AI. That would be one example, I think. But we're, it's a, and my wife is a writing professor at Carl Sandburg College, and so it's.
She must have a love-hate relationship with AI.
We talk a lot about AI. So, and in my business, we just it's in my newsrooms they're all like, oh, AI. So, but it's here,
Yep.
and so we have to navigate it.
What other trends or developments looking out? Obviously we're seeing more of artificial intelligence creep into almost every aspect of business and the economy. But within newspaper, the media, what changes, trends, developments do you see maybe 5 years down the road?
I don't know. I don't know that I can predict that. I think a lot of questions. I get questions about when will print go away? Is print going away? Well, so we're 7 days a week. In Iowa, we're the only 7 day a week newspaper. So I think there will always be some space for print. And I think people will want to get away from screens. And so I think that Sunday paper or a weekly newspaper, even down the road, 5 or 10 years, I think there will always be that. There's something about having a physical copy of something and being able to set it down and pick it back up. And I think we'll wear ourselves out with screens, and we need to take a break from screens. I think that for health, there will be a time when screens are too much, and we're finding that there are health problems because of it. So I don't know in the industry. I mean, I think obviously it's going to be more digital. That's where people are. They're on their phones. We want to be in their phones. So we just have to find the strategies that gets the best content in their phones in front of them at the right time. And so.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
We're going to have to cut in. Yeah, we appreciate you you being here and doing this. I feel like we could probably ask you 20 more questions. I find this very interesting.
Yes, you've been an excellent
thank you
guest.
so much.
Yes.
Yeah.
We appreciate your time.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Keith, what else you got? Anything?
I guess not too much. Of course, on the high school side of things, tonight we open the football season, road trip to Rochelle. So wish the Green Machine and Entourage all the best as we start the season off with a tough opponent, but it should be a good game in Rochelle tonight. Hopefully you can make it out there. If not, you can watch it on TV 50 and also listen on WGRG.
Mm-hmm. And we should probably mention that coming up, Trains, Planes, and Automobiles, that's on September the 6th. The next show, next Friday here, we will have the Chamber of Commerce in to talk about the much anticipated TPA event. I know that you kind of help out do the pedal car
Parade. Yes.
Yeah.
So anyone 9, 10 years old and under, anything that's foot powered, bring it on out. And a little before 11, meet at the intersection of 2nd and State. And it's a fun little thing. Kids enjoy it. Checkered flag at the end, all the good stuff.
Yeah. Tom, if you want to send somebody out to cover the pedal car parade.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about that right now.
Yeah.
I got to tell you.
Keith is your go-to man for that.
Exactly.
We should mention, too, some upcoming city items that are of interest to a lot of people. Fall curbside cleanup is coming up. September 15th through the 18th. That's broken down into quadrants in town. You can check out the city's Facebook page or city website for more information about your quadrant and the rules surrounding fall curbside cleanup. We also have the e-waste day, where you can take your e-waste that you've been accumulating throughout the year. That's on Saturday, September the 20th from 8 a.m. to noon at the Street Department building on Chicago Street. And then, so next Friday, Chamber coming in. And we also have a gentleman coming in, I believe, from the Geneseo Fire Department to talk about the 9/11 stair climb, which is the morning of TPA at the high school.
That is correct. It's a special event that they put on. They've been doing it for several years now, and so they'll be in to speak about it. But it's a nice, it's a fundraiser, but also it's a good day to remember and honor those that sacrificed on 9/11.
Yeah. Yeah, and then from a city council standpoint, things going on right now. We did just pass some changes to the Prairie Park facility. Some positive things. We're taking some steps to form a volunteer group to help maintain the Prairie Park trail system, actually defining what the trail system is up on the city's 68 acres of ground on the north side of town here. Going to be putting up some trail maps and hopefully, and if you are interested in volunteering to be on a group that helps keep the trails nice throughout the year and do some projects out there on the trails to clear debris and things like that, we welcome you to stop by City Hall or talk to myself or somebody on council if that's of interest to you.
Yeah, and it's a nice example, too, of how, it was started somewhat controversially. We were looking at maybe doing a solar farm and stuff out there, and had maybe some inaccurate information that was shared, but was able to get accurate information out about it. But it also, though, caused us to kind of refocus and kind of become more aware of what we have as a resource out there. So there's really been not only positive improvements with the burn pile in that area. There's been things we've done from a safety standpoint just to make sure that there's trails where they belong and not where they were in some cases. But just increased signage, working on the trails, getting more involvement of the users of the park. It's been a real positive experience. So yeah, would encourage you if you have any interest in Prairie Park to get a hold of Brandon and join this committee, because really everyone that's volunteered so far, it's all from a positive standpoint. All ideas to make it better or willingness to help maintain it. And it's really it's a unique thing to have in our town, because when you're out there and stuff, it's kind of almost like you're like in a different world. Mm-hmm. You get on some of those trails and you're back by the canal and in the woods and that sort of thing. It's pretty nice to have that just a couple minutes out of downtown here.
Yeah. Yep, and then staff and council are spending a lot of time, the last meeting and upcoming meetings, starting to do capital planning, really taking a detailed look into the future of the needs of especially the water and sanitary sewer system and how that translates into future budgets and rate discussions and all of those exciting topics that'll be coming up. But unfortunately, necessary things to do as we try to look at an aging infrastructure and figure out the best strategies to keep things going in the future.
Well, we'll have more information on that and all things here in town on future editions of Let's Talk Geneseo. So with that, Brandon, always a pleasure. Tom, thank you again so much for coming in and joining us. Mark, always a pleasure as well. You're kind of the glue of the group here.
Appreciate that, Keith. Thank you.
Appreciate all the efforts you put in to help make the program a success. So with that, that's going to wrap it up. You've been listening to WGRG 100.5 FM in Geneseo. Have a great weekend.